How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and a fun one for you today. The best cities to live near Denver, Colorado. We're covering them starting right now. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everetson. Listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then this is a channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon popping up on your screen, click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And listen, as much as I try to get a little creative on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of Denver's most talented realtors, and we're helping people move here each and every day. So that number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person answering your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there when and if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is, what are the best cities to live near Denver, Colorado? All right, so number one on my list is Broomfield, Colorado, located roughly 25 to 30 minutes northwest of Denver. Broomfield is a great community. It's basically located right between Boulder and right between Denver. So you'll have a lot of people who work in either or people who want to enjoy one of those two towns or both, but they don't necessarily want to live in them. So I said that Broomfield was, again, roughly 25 minutes from Denver, and that's, again, going to depend on what part of Broomfield you're coming from, what part of Denver you're coming from, and traffic. But you're also roughly the same distance, 25 minutes from getting to Boulder, and coincidentally, even though it might look like it's farther, you're about 30 minutes from Denver International Airport. So Broomfield has a population of about 75,000 people, and it makes it the second most dense populated area or city other than Denver itself. So one of the first key factors of making Broomfield a great place to live is how highly rated the school systems are. It's rated an A to an A+ on a lot of websites you're gonna look, including niche.com, best schools, things of that nature. And the schools consist of Boulder County schools, Adams 12 School District, and Jeffco schools or Jefferson County. Best schools actually rated Broomfield number 1 out of 19 different areas around Denver. And Broomfield is just overall a very cool town. Now it's a big city / county. Broomfield is actually its own county. And so within those 75,000 people that live there, you have every variety of living scenario you could find. You know, we talk about townhomes, we talk about condos, we talk about apartments, but Broomfield also has older neighborhoods that have been around for decades, and then it's got a lot of new construction. You've got some affordability areas where apartments, townhomes, condos might be on the, I don't want to say the lower price range, but you might find some affordability there, and then you have some homes that will knock your socks off. So if any of you happen to be like uber wealthy and you want to own a mansion next to a golf course, one, hit me up so I can golf with you, but two, you're gonna have a lot to choose from when it comes to Broomfield. And while Broomfield does not have like a specific downtown region, it does have two really cool places to check out. One is the Omni Interlochen. So you may, as you're coming to Denver, hear about the Denver Tech Center in Greenwood Village, which is a high tech area, a lot of businesses. Well, the Omni Interlochen for Broomfield is basically the same thing. You have a lot of these tech companies along 36, and along this road, you have all these different businesses. You've got the Omni Hotel, which is a great place to go to, and the Interlochen is also home to the Interlochen Golf Club, which is nationally renowned at this point. A beautiful golf course, great club. A lot of people go there. Definitely something you're gonna want to check out. Probably the only thing that stinks about the Interlochen is the fact that there is a small airport in that region, so I can't fly my drone around it. So drone footage is limited, but you can still get some good shots, and definitely, again, an area you want to check out. And also in Broomfield, also 36, is the Arista Uptown. So Arista, if Broomfield doesn't have a downtown, Arista is kind of trying to be that. An area filled with a lot of townhomes and condos with shops, restaurants, little bars, and within Arista, which was built in the last handful of years, is the First Bank Center. It used to be the Broomfield Center, now the First Bank Center, obviously bought at some point. And so the First Bank Center has a capacity of about 6,000 people. It's good for concerts. You'll see a lot of fights there, like UFC style, MMA stuff, but a great event center. I have heard from people who live in or around Arista that during some of those events, it can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. Obviously, you have 6,000 people flooding into this small region, but not a deal breaker and not something that is too overwhelming to them. And the last thing I'll say about Broomfield is that it is home to more than 260 different bike trails, hiking trails, walking trails. They've got systems going everywhere. So if you're into, especially if you were into biking, Broomfield is a hot spot for that. Moving right along, area number 2, city number 2, Arvada, Colorado. Now, Arvada is one of my favorite spots, not too far from where I grew up. And so Arvada is, like Broomfield, also northwest of Denver. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to look at a map and you're not going to believe this, but if you Google getting from Denver to Arvada takes roughly 20 minutes if you're getting on I-70. Now, we always say it depends on where you're coming from because there's literally parts of Arvada that butt up against Denver. So you could say it takes you 5 minutes depending on where you're coming from. Now, Arvada has a population of 123,000 people. When it comes to schools, also tends to be highly rated with an A- as far as niche.com, and Arvada is part of Jefferson County school districts as well. But when we talk about Arvada, what we really have to think about is that there are two different worlds of Arvada when I talk about how close it is to Denver. So Arvada is a very big suburb, a very big city, but it also stretches. So it's not like this big block you see on the map. It just kind of keeps going west. And so there are parts of Arvada that we call Arvada, and then there are parts that us locals like to call Farvada. And it's not even because geographically it's a long ways away. It's just because of the type of roads you have to take to get out there could take you forever. So once you get off of I-70 in Arvada, you get to these sections where the only roads you have are service roads, your typical 35 to 40 to maybe 45 mile per hour roads with a lot of stoplights, a lot of stop signs. And so if you're trying to get from one side of Arvada to the other, again, geographically might not look like it's that far, but it could easily add 15 to 20 to, on the extreme, 25 minutes to get from one side of Arvada to the other. Now, the benefit of Farvada is that it's pretty. You got a lot of nature. You're getting out west. You're getting closer to the mountains, a lot of green, a lot of the homes out there, although built several decades ago, so you're going to have some age, so, you may, I should say, have some age issues as far as the homes, but you're going to tend to be on bigger lots with mature trees. You're going to tend to have, a lot of like character to the neighborhoods. Arvada has a big mining kind of history to it, so you get a lot of that within it. One thing I would add here, and you might read this, so there's not a lot of water in and around Denver, Colorado for that matter, but there are areas of Arvada, several in fact, that are in what we call floodplains, meaning that there is at least a risk that the homes could be flooded. And because of that, if you are buying a home on a floodplain, you could and will be required to purchase flood insurance. It's a specific insurance because at the end of the day, it's a very unique situation. Does this come up a lot? Not necessarily, but I have had clients, I've had people who buy a home in Arvada and then they find out that that payment each month is going to be several $100s higher because of this flood insurance. So just specific to Arvada, it's something I always want to make sure I mention. But now we talked about Farvada, you get closer in and you get to Old Town Arvada, which is closer to the city and one of my favorite places on earth. Old Town Arvada, O-L-D-E Arvada, is filled with breweries and wineries and these great walking areas. Great for, younger people, older people, families, you name it. Certain areas completely blocked off of traffic where they've got chalk drawings on the ground and you can hit up some good spots. Some of my favorite breweries. They've got one of the coolest Army-Navy stores that you could possibly walk through. And they've got the Schoolhouse Kitchen and Libations, one of my favorite bars. It was, shocker, an old schoolhouse in Arvada that was then turned into this facility. Absolutely a great place to go. I feel like this video is going to take 30 minutes if I don't speed up, so we got to jump to number 3, and that is Golden, Colorado. Of all the places that I have been around my entire life, Golden is one of my absolute favorites and definitely a place that I would check out at some point to live. Most important thing that you can possibly know about Golden is that Jolly Ranchers candies were found there. I could end this entire video right there, and if you didn't want to move to Golden because of Jolly Ranchers candies, I wouldn't even know what to say to you. Also, apple is the best flavor. But Golden is located roughly, you're getting the theme here, 20 to 30 minutes west of Denver. You jump on, now you could hear that it's about 20 minutes if you jump on I-70, but if you're leaving Denver, you could also go up US 6th Avenue. That's gonna take you directly from Denver into Golden. That again is about a 20 to 25 minute drive. Now the one thing about Golden is that you have kind of the heart of Golden, and then it keeps stretching west and kind of curving up northwest. So similar to Arvada, but not quite as extreme, there are parts of Golden you can get to in that 20 to 25 minute period of time. But then there are certainly parts of Golden, if you're leaving Denver, that are gonna take you closer to 35 to 40 minutes to get to, especially stretches where there's traffic and you get to roads where there's one lane going each way. And you know, anytime you're on a road with one lane, there's always that one person doing 10 miles below the speed limit because they just know they need to be that person. Now, Golden has a smaller population, sitting at about 20,000 people. It is home. It's within Jefferson County Schools as well, but it is also home to Golden High School, which is actually the oldest high school in all of Colorado. It's also home to Colorado School of Mines, one of the most prestigious engineering schools in the nation. And in downtown Golden, you got a lot of history. It's an old mining town sitting down in this valley, so you've just got mountains and peaks and it's beautiful. But downtown, you got a lot of culture and just a lot of character down there. And Washington Avenue, the main strip that runs through the heart of the town, is one of my absolute favorite places. Filled with restaurants and coffee shops, one of the most walkable streets you're ever going to find. And again, just a great place to go down, hang out, spend some time with friends, families, heck, by yourself. It's just fantastic. And so Golden's gonna be great for history lovers. It's gonna be great for people who enjoy biking and hiking. You're out in the nature. You're out in the nature. That's good wording there, Jimmy. Now, the cost of living in Golden tends to be a bit higher. Your housing costs in Golden are higher than Denver on average. Overall, as far as going to restaurants, things like that, they can be on the pricier end. Golden doesn't really have like the fanciest places. So you're not gonna go to a restaurant and get like blown out of your wallet, but it does tend to be on average higher than a similar setting in Denver. And Golden has a little nickname. I don't know if this is just a local thing, but a lot of people here in Denver will call Golden Baby Boulder because it has some of that vibe to it. I say vibe, I mean you get to Golden and you have to hug a tree and you have to hold it real quick, close to you. Maybe do some yoga, I don't know. And one little thing, like I mentioned with Arvada and the floodplain. So a big thing in Golden that I hear from people and that I genuinely didn't notice until the last few years is that Golden, as I mentioned, sits in that valley. So in the winter, obviously, we get less sun as it is. But because you're in that valley and because of where you're positioned, there are homes in Golden where this will be worse than others, but there are homes in Golden where they're in the shade by 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They don't see the sun as of 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whereas the rest of the city might not. The sun sets for them at 4:45. So I have heard that depending on where your house is, depending on what part of town you are in, it just feels like you are in the dark a lot more living in certain parts of Golden. That's just a random fun fact, but at least you don't have to have flood insurance for it. Area number 4 is Englewood, Colorado. It's where my brother-in-law Kirk is. Shout out to Kirk. And Englewood is located just south of Denver, basically borders it. So extremely close. You leaving Denver, you're heading south on Broadway and you're literally gonna cross from Denver into Englewood. So I could tell you again that depending on where you're coming from Denver could take you 10 minutes, but obviously very close. Englewood has about 33,500 inhabitants. And it's home to Swedish Hospital, Porter Hospital, and Craig Hospital, which is actually a specialty hospital. And Englewood, coincidentally, is its own school district. And a couple of the websites, for what it's worth, rated Englewood as a B- on schools. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think it is important that people do their individual due diligence when it comes to schools. And I'll say this, even if you don't have kiddos, even if schools don't matter to you, especially if you are going to buy a home, take into consideration how schools are around you, because at some point, if you ever sell that house, somebody might care a little bit more about those schools than you do. Now, Englewood is a pretty big town, and it geographically, I don't know. Sometimes when I look at maps of Colorado and cities, and again, this is probably everywhere, but it just seems like people kind of etch-a-sketched certain things, and Englewood has that. It kind of juts around all over the place. But most of the homes in that community were built between 1910 and 1950, and so they tend to be on the smaller range of places that you might see as you go farther south. And as you get into newer neighborhoods like Highlands Ranch or Parker or areas of Littleton. But with those houses, you've got well-built, you've got lot sizes that are pretty decent, and some great communities that have, I like to say, they have culture and character to them. They've been around for a while. And Englewood is also home to two stretches that I just really love. One, you've got downtown Englewood, which is on South Broadway, and again, filled with some great restaurants, one of my favorite Italian places, a couple coffee shops, things of that nature. And then coming up Hamden, another one of the roads, Hamden and Broadway cross at some point. There, back when I was a young man, because I'm old, there used to be a mall called Cinderella City. It was one of the greatest places to go to. And now where Cinderella City is now the Englewood Civic Center, Englewood Park, and they've got just a ton of shops and different buildings, food, coffee shops, 24-hour fitness, all sorts of stuff over there. So all in that hub area of, again, what you would call downtown Englewood, there's all sorts of stuff to do. And also within that community, some of the cooler apartments, townhomes, and condos that you're going to see as well. And if you've stuck around this long, now we get to number 5, and that is Parker, Colorado. Now, Parker is actually the farthest away from Denver as far as our overall consideration. So for drive time, you could say that technically Parker is about 35 minutes southeast of Denver, but in reality, it could easily be a 45-minute drive or longer. And the main reason is just getting there. So E470 coming off of I-25, you're going to typically take 225 and you're going to start heading southeast. However, to get to Parker, you're going to get off on Parker Road. And so kind of similar to what I told you with Arvada and Arvada is you're just on Parker Road for a long stretch of time. Thankfully, Parker Road, I think, lets you go 55, but you're still running into lights, you're still running into the potential for traffic. So it can just be a haul getting out there. But once you're out there, I have to admit, kind of similar to how I feel about Broomfield, Parker is a very cool town. One, it has Main Street, just this main road for a downtown area, very cool to hang out in, and a lot of community things. Parks, your restaurants, your cafes, all that good jazz, all in this one little area. And Parker is home to 60,300 people in population and schools. This is a reoccurring theme, schools rated an A- on niche.com. And those schools are part of Douglas County School District. And Parker, I'm gonna tell you, one of my absolute favorite places on a summer day. I don't want to say it's quite Leave It to Beaver, but it gets a little Leave It to Beaver-ish. So ball fields, a lot of parks, a lot of trails, some great neighborhoods, some of the best neighborhoods that I have seen. A lot of new construction out there, a lot of housing options. You're gonna see places like Antelope Heights and Pine Bluff and Horseshoe Ridge and the Pinery, just really cool neighborhoods, and they each have their own character. So one thing I like, although there are some neighborhoods that get this, is that most neighborhoods you drive through, you don't feel that cookie cutter-ish style where every house looks the same. They've really done a good job of giving each home its own character. And although the cost of living in Parker has increased, one of the big draws of Parker was its affordability, and part of that affordability was, again, because of location, its distance from Denver. Now, you talk to a lot of folks and a lot of my friends and clients who have moved to Parker. Again, that cost of living and specifically the cost of housing is increasing because of how just cool a place it is to live. Certainly something to consider is that there was a point where you would say, I'll go to Parker, you'll get affordability. That well might be drying up a little bit. And of all the communities I've seen, Parker tends to do the most, or at least kind of the most of any communities as far as events for just the entire community. They have their own little beer fest. They have Parker Days. They have a trick or treat festival. They have an Easter egg hunt. They have music festivals. They have dog festivals. They just do a lot with the community. So while it might be the farthest away, it brings you in closer. But that's just 5 and we've been here forever. Man, I didn't even cover Littleton or Aurora or Lakewood, My Hood. But maybe we'll cover those in another one. And if you have questions about any of them, that's a perfect opportunity to hit me up. The phone number, the email popping up on your screen. Know that I'm always the person answering those phone calls, answering those texts, answering those emails, there when and if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everts. That was the best places to live near Denver, Colorado. Until I see you next time,